I'm going to help us out figuring out another reason why Americans are broke is number 2 on our list. And it says, Daggum Jones. I mean, I don't know who let these people move in down the street.
They're the worst neighbors ever.
But as soon as they moved in, it seems like Americans lost their mind on trying to keep up with them.
That's exactly right. We as Americans, we all fall prey to what's known as conspicuous consumption. And maybe that's a vocabulary term you've never heard of or something you're not familiar with. Conspicuous consumption is the act of purchasing goods or services simply for the purpose of displaying one's wealth, of displaying one's prestige. You are literally trying to show off. And in the world of the Joneses, all we care about is, do the Joneses see that I have the same thing going on that they have going on?
I want to prepare you for an old man on the front porch moment here, is that I'm actually happy that I'm part of Gen X.
Okay.
Because we are of the age that when I grew up, the only people you knew who were wealthy, besides Robin Leach and the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, was you knew your community, you knew your neighborhood, and you knew the kids like you that surrounded you at school. We had no idea whether we were rich, whether we were poor. And I think that actually helped us, because the fact that you couldn't compare yourself to what social media brings everyone. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't until I got to college that I was like, what? People have what? I mean, it was just one of those things.
You had no idea, no way of knowing.
But as I grew up, K through all the time, all the way up till I went to college, I thought we were fine, even though we were lower middle class all through my childhood. And my dad even lost his job in his 40s and still never felt poor until we got to college. And I was like, whoa, this is what people with money look like. And I feel like that has been brought forward to everybody through social media. It's one of the negatives out there, is that comparison is definitely a lot more in your face.
Yeah, and it's not even just the anecdotal story. Again, the data from the Atlantic shared that households that were exposed to more spending by their wealthy neighbors report more financial duress for themselves, aka they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And there's even a positive relationship between the income of a state's richest households and the number of bankruptcies in that state, meaning that the more wealthy the households are, the higher the level of bankruptcies. This is because of conspicuous consumption. This is because of people trying to spend for the sake of everyone else seeing how wealthy they are.
Well, I think there's a disconnect, because there's a lot of people, even people who don't have the resources, they think when you reach a level of success or you start having some accomplishments financially, you should go show people what it looks like. Right. But the reality is, and we know this, we could have done the slide where we show you the richer people are, the poorer it sometimes seems like they look. You know, we could give the example of Zuckerberg. We could talk about Jay-Z. I mean, there's so many examples. Instead of trying to look rich, I want you to start acting like the true wealth does.
That's a perfect segue. Let's talk about how you can do it better. First thing is, know what wealthy people actually spend their money on. It's not the flashy things, the fancy watches, the fancy cars, the fancy houses. Understand where value exists, and wealthy people spend money on things that they value, not things that they perceive other people value.
Yeah, the typical wealthy people are not, they didn't get there by buying fancy cars, fancy watches. There's actually a lot of research that shows that people who are on the lower income spectrum actually spend more money on the fancy exotic brands, the Rolex watches and those things than even wealthy people do.
And the other thing you can do is choose to be wealthy, actually be wealthy, over looking rich. Make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who care more about what your savings rate is and the future you're building, and less about the car that exists in your garage. And you may say, oh man, that's hard. Me and my neighbors, we don't talk about money. We don't talk about the balance sheet. We have a community for you. If you're not a member of our Financial Mutant Facebook group, go to moneyguy.com, figure out how you can become a member of that group, because it is all people that are like-minded, that are sharing those types of information. It's the people that care about actually being wealthy, not just looking wealthy.
And I want to get back to the root of what's going on with this keeping up with the Joneses. First of all, comparison is the thief of joy.
That's exactly right.
And I want you to just repeat this after me. This is one of those things. Someone is always going to have more money than you.
Yep.
Someone's always going to have less money than you. I deal with way too many people who make great incomes, who by all measurements should be completely happy with where they are from a financial perspective. But because their peer group, take if you're somebody who makes, we know people who make 7 figures annually.
Yep.
That's right, 7 figures. But because of who they run with, they actually think they're poor. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm just telling you, be careful if you are running with a group and you have this comparison that makes you always feel like you're the poorest person of everybody who surrounds you. You're probably not doing it right.